This video will show you how to replace your rear brake flex hose on this Toyota Corolla. This will be located behind your rear wheel. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. The first thing we have to do is safely raise and support the rear of the vehicle so the wheel's off the ground. Once you've done that, you're going to remove all 5 of your 21mm lug nuts and we can get the wheel off of here. Now let's have a look along the back side of the rear brakes. In this area we can see our brake line leading to the wheel cylinder. We need to open our bleeder screw. If you have a cover, go ahead and remove that now. Just pry that off of there. Once you have it off, a quick inspection will set it aside. Now we're using a 10mm for our bleeder screw. An important note about this is you want to make sure you have a collection receptacle underneath this area so you can collect and recycle all of your brake fluid as necessary. Using our 10mm, let's go ahead and turn this counterclockwise. We want to wait until we see a steady trickle of fluid coming out. That's going to tell us that the bleeder screw works as it should and there's no restriction in the braking system. This looks good. Let's go ahead and close it temporarily. Now, the next thing I always like to do if I'm ever doing anything hydraulic related where fluid's going to make its way out while I'm working is to prevent the fluid from making its way out. So for this, I'm going to be using my 10mm on my bleeder screw. We're going to reopen it just a little bit. We have to make our way up to the passenger compartment, press that brake pedal all the way down to the floor, and hold it there with something such as a pry bar. You're going to find fluid makes its way out and eventually stops. At this point, the fluid stopped making its way out. We can close our bleeder screw. Just a quick note about having the bar on the brake pedal is this whole time, you're going to have the brake lights on. So if you feel as though it's going to take you a while to be able to complete this process, just go ahead and disconnect your negative battery terminal if needed. Now we're going to move our collection receptacle underneath where we're working on our rear brake flex hose. As you start disconnecting your brake line fittings, you may find fluid still makes its way out. That fluid is trapped inside this hose. We're using a 10mm for the brake line fittings. If you need to, you can use a flare end wrench to break these free. Get some movement. As you're removing the brake line fittings from the brake flex hose, confirm that you're not twisting your steel brake line in any way. That can cause damage. You definitely don't want to have a braking issue by the time you're done. Now I have movement from there. To remove the flex hose from its metal bracket, you're going to find that it has a metal clip with a small tab. Let's take hold of the tab with some pliers. We should be able to work this out of position. You can also use a small pry bar if necessary. A thorough inspection of our clip, of course, confirming it's not rotted or weak. This looks good. We'll set it aside. Take hold of the flex hose. You should be able to pull it out and away. As you disconnect things, just make a clear inspection of everything that you're removing the part from. The fittings are especially important. If it looks like it's rotted, you want to go ahead and replace that brake line. This one looks fine. Let's move along. We're continuing with our 10mm wrench. We're up at the other end of the brake hose now. Exact same thing as before. Just go ahead and loosen that fitting. Make sure it's not rotted and weak, and definitely don't cause any damage to your brake line. There's some of our fluid. We'll just make sure we drain out as much as possible before we continue on. Once that's separated, go ahead and take hold of your metal clip. We'll remove that. Slide the hose out of position. There it is, friend. Now after cleaning and inspecting your brake lines and your mounting hardware, it's time to install the brand new rear brake flex hose. You can install this in any orientation you want, but one thing you do want to pay attention to is the very end of each side of the flex hose. You can tell that there's 2 rounded areas and 2 flat areas. If you were looking at the mounting brackets on either side, you're going to see exactly how this has to sit. Now let's start getting this into position. We're going to align it with our first brake line. We'll start that in just a little bit, and then we can align it with its bracket to start in our mounting clip. Now sometimes these brake line fittings spin easily, other times they do not. If they don't spin easy enough for you, you can just align that brake flex hose, start it on there by hand. Once you do have it started on, just go ahead and start pressing it towards its mounting bracket. It should slide into place. Once it slides in and it's completely bottomed out, continue on with your locking clip, holding it in. As for that locking clip, we want to make sure that we have that tab that we grabbed onto facing out and away from the brake flex hose and the bracket. Go ahead and tap that into position. Before going any further, make sure you tighten your brake line. You do not want to forget about that. Once you have your brake line fitting bottomed out with your open end wrench, continue on with a flare wrench. We do need to make sure it's snug, so once it bottoms out, just take it a tiny bit further. Let's make our way to the other side. Let's line that up with the brake line. Obviously, if you have the brake hose locked in position on one side, you may find that you have a hard time twisting the flex hose to get it started on the line. If that's the case, just make sure you're not cross-threading your line into the flex hose. Take your time. This lined up. Okay, that's started in well. Now we're going to continue on with bottoming this out and putting in our locking clip. Let's line this up with its bracket. Should be able to twist it as necessary. Let's get our clip in there. Clips in, let's go ahead and snug it up. Double check to make sure everything's properly installed and secure. Now we can make our way into the passenger compartment. We're going to remove the pressure from our brake pedal. After that, we'll be back out here on the back side of the backing plate looking at that bleeder screw on the wheel cylinder. We have our collection receptacle under here. We're going to open our bleeder screw and allow the fluid to gravity bleed. Now what we're waiting for here is to see only a steady trickle of fluid making its way out with no air bubbles. We do not want any air inside of our braking system. Once you're sure that you've removed all air from inside the system, you can go ahead and close your bleeder screw. Make your way up into the passenger compartment and pump up the brake. It should feel firm. If it doesn't, you might have a leak or you could still have air trapped in the system. If that's the case, double check for leaks and you may have to complete a manual brake bleed. We're looking for the master cylinder along the driver's side of the engine compartment. Let's gain access to the cap. For that, you can remove your seal up along the top here. We'll just go ahead and pull that in one direction or the other. It has several locking clips. We don't need to go too far here. That exposes our protective panel. It has two locking tabs. Squeeze them in and pull this up and out of place. Clean along the top of the master cylinder so you're sure that nothing will fall inside of it. You even need to pay attention up along this plastic cowl. After you've cleaned that area, we're going to remove our brake master cap. We've got our brand new clean .3 brake fluid. Go ahead and top off that master cylinder. We'll reinstall the cap. Once you're sure it's topped off, reinstall your cover, clean any mess. We can install our cover on this area. Listen for an audible click. Reinstall your protective seal. You can see all of our small hooks here. Looking along the bottom of the seal, there's circular ports. Just go ahead and stretch it as necessary to slide it into position. Let's get our wheel on here. We'll get that in place. Start on all 5 of your 21mm lug nuts. We'll bottom them out. Get the wheel safely back down on the ground and torque each of these lug nuts to 76 foot-pounds. Now that we've got the wheel back on the ground, let's torque each one of our 21mm lug nuts to 76 foot-pounds. Torqued. Okay friend, we finished our installation. The last thing we want to do is check for leaks and take the vehicle for a road test. Thanks for watching. The first thing we want to mention is you want to have several pints of clean .3 or .4 brake fluid and some parts cleaner. Now the first thing we want to do is make sure that all the bleeder screws on each one of our brakes opens as it should. Otherwise you might have to replace another braking component. After inspecting all those, we need to make our way back under the hood. We're looking for the master cylinder along the driver's side of the engine compartment. Let's gain access to the cap. For that, you can remove your seal up along the top here. We'll just go ahead and pull that in one direction or the other. It has several locking clips. We don't need to go too far here. That exposes our protective panel. It has two locking tabs. Squeeze them in and pull this up and out of place. Clean along the top of the master cylinder so you're sure that nothing will fall inside of it. You even need to pay attention up along this plastic cowl. After you've cleaned that area, we're going to remove our brake master cap. With that out of place, inside of the master cylinder, you're going to find that you have a small screen. We're going to want to remove that. For this, I'm just using an angled pick. We'll see if we can work it out of position. Let's see if we can pull that up and out of there. Set that aside. The next thing we need is a fluid extractor and a collection receptacle for all that fluid. Let's remove as much fluid as possible from inside the master cylinder. Now that we've removed as much fluid as possible from inside that master cylinder, we can reinstall our screen in this area. Just press it in there as far as possible. We've got our brand new clean .3 brake fluid. Go ahead and top off that master cylinder. We'll reinstall the cap. Now that we have the master topped off with brand new brake fluid, we made our way to the right rear brakes, or passenger side rear. We're going to start the bleeding sequence here. Now for the bleeding sequence, we're going to start at the passenger side rear, and then we're going to move to the driver's side front, diagonally. After we've bled that brake, we have to make our way up to the master cylinder, and we're going to check and top off that fluid. Once we've completed that, we're going to the driver's side rear, and then to the passenger side front. Once we've completed those two brakes, we're back up at the master cylinder. Now you can do this with a hose, you can use a small pan if necessary, whatever's best for you. This is going to be easiest if you have a second person to bleed the brakes. The person inside the vehicle is going to pump up the brake pedal till it feels nice and firm, approximately 3 to 5 times. They're going to hold it and let me know. While they're holding it, I'm going to open up the bleeder screw and fluid will come out of the bleeder screw. Once the fluid stops, I'm going to close the bleeder screw and I'm going to ask them to pump again. After it's firm, we're going to repeat this process several times until we know that we have only clean brake fluid making its way out of the system. Go ahead and pump up the brake pedal, please. I've got my hose on here. You should be able to see some fluid make its way out. Go ahead and pump. Go ahead and pump. You can release. Now at this point, I saw several times that I had only clean brake fluid making its way out of the system. Obviously, you want to continue this process until you've confirmed the same. Assuming you have, go ahead and remove your apparatus and clean up the mess in this area. Now as for the left front brakes, for the bleeder screw, we're going to be using an 8mm. We have our collection receptacles here so we can collect and recycle that fluid. We'll get this all in place. Go ahead and pump up the brakes, please. Go ahead and pump. That's looking good. Go ahead and pump. All right, just one more time here. This is looking good. Now, just like before, repeat this process as many times as necessary to confirm that you have only clean brake fluid making its way out and definitely no air. After you've completed that, go ahead and clean up your mess, reinstall your bleeder screw cover. We're making our way up to the master cylinder next. All the brakes have been bled. Remove your master cylinder cap, and we can continue on topping off that fluid all the way up to the maximum line. Once you're sure it's topped off, reinstall your cover, clean any mess. We can install our cover on this area. Listen for an audible click. Reinstall your protective seal. You can see all of our small hooks here. Looking along the bottom of the seal, there's circular ports. Just go ahead and stretch it as necessary to slide it into position. Okay, friend, we finished bleeding our brakes. The torque for all of the wheels will be 76 foot-pounds. After you've completed that, you want to make sure that you pump up your brake pedal till it's firm and take your vehicle for a road test. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.